everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Value of Degrees. This is July's webinar in a monthly series hosted by Aspen's Alumni and Career Services. I'm Allie, and I'm your Alumni and Career Services Specialist. You can find upcoming events and see more resources we have to offer on our website, which I will drop into the chat shortly. This webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to Aspen's YouTube channel, and I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. Please keep your microphones muted during the presentation, but feel free to type any questions or comments in the chat throughout, and we'll do some Q&A at the end. It is absolutely lovely to have Dr. Nina Beaman back this month to speak about the various degree levels in higher education and what you can expect from each of them in regards to career advancement, among other things. Dr. Beaman is the Graduate Partnership Liaison and the Dean Emerita of the School of Nursing and Health Sciences at Aspen University. Dr. Beaman, this is the third time we've had you speak for this series, and I feel so lucky to have you as a resource to our students and alumni. Thank you so much for being here. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen and hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm always so honored to be asked to come, and I'm excited about this topic. Let me situate myself a little bit with my slideshow. I'm gonna do from the start. Okay. Here we go. Let's start at the very beginning, as they say in the song. I'm going to be talking tonight very briefly, I hope, about the value of degrees. I want you to notice that this isn't the usual Aspen mountain photos that we show. This is a nice mountain, sort of like the mountain that I have in front of my house. It's climbable. It's doable, sort of like education at Aspen. So I always start, as you know, with a land acknowledgement because I'm very honored to be able to be on the traditional lands of the Monacan tribe here in Virginia on Turtle Island that we often call North America. I actually grow on my property this corn. It's called gem corn, and it was created by numerous tribes of indigenous people coming together with their own types of corn and mixing them all together and making this beautiful work of gem corn, which, by the way, looks really good. And if you want to know what it tastes like corn, okay? But it really looks pretty. And my husband, who's a chef, uses it on a lot of decorative work that he does for catering. So let's honor, respect the land, the wisdom and traditions of the original occupants. And as we talk together, let's understand that we're very diverse in this room and in the people that are listening here, and that diverse ideas are great. They're wonderful. They're what make this Turtle Island great. So here I am. I'm the graduate partner liaison, as she said, and the former dean of the School of Nursing and Health Sciences. I'm also adjunct faculty, and I saw some of my students are here in the School of Nursing and Health Sciences, as well as the School of Education. So the outcome in the next half an hour or so is I want to talk about what each degree demonstrates about you, how they might differ from each other, how they build upon each other, and how you can use each degree to further your career and make more money. All right, so let's look at the degrees. And I grew up as one of my first languages was Arabic, so I'm going to read from right to left. I know the rest of you read from left to right, but this is a stair step going from right to left. So we're going to start with the associate degree. The associate degree is a technical degree, usually 2 years, sometimes a little less. But as Pat Benner, the great nursing theorist, said, when you come out with an associate degree, you are an advanced beginner. You've done some kind of apprenticeship. You've certainly learned a skill. You have a very basic knowledge of whatever it is you've studied. But at this point, you're employable, and your employer may pay for future advancements. I actually earned my first nursing degree as an associate degree because my idea was my father, God bless him, paid for my associate degree, and then I let everybody else who employed me pay for the rest of my nursing education. But I had that associate degree, so I was employable, and the employers wanted me to advance. So what is the capstone competency? In other words, at the end of the associate degree, what should you be able to do? Well, there's usually some type of competency exam that is involved. In the case of nursing, it's the NCLEX, but it might be some kind of apprenticeship exam or some kind of entrance exam at the facility or some proof of competency. However, the bachelor degree is the next step up in the rung of the ladder. And at this point, it's not just technical, they actually expect you to have good general knowledge about your topic. So you might have general knowledge about healthcare administration or general knowledge about bachelor's in nursing, general knowledge about education. At this point, this is a collegiate degree. So I often have students who are in the bachelor's degree say, "Why do I have to do APA? I never had to do that in my associate degree." Because in your associate degree, as you remember, you were studying for that NCLEX and you were just trying to pass that competency exam, but you weren't really working on writing in a scholarly manner. So if you're wondering why you are suddenly in your bachelor's degree expected to know APA style when you weren't expected before, it's because you're moving from that technician to that bachelor prepared graduate. And the bachelor prepared graduate should be able to write in a scholarly manner. It's an expectation. And Pat Benner would say, now you're competent. You not only know your topic area, you not only know your technical skill, but you can express it and communicate it to other scholars in a scholarly, collegiate way. This brings with it usually increased pay and expectations. Whereas I remember when I first got my associate in nursing, I made $12.69 an hour. I thought that's great. I'll get lots of hours, but you don't necessarily get a lot of hours. Okay. But when you get a bachelor's, you've now moved up into getting a salary. But that also has expectations with it. The capstone competency is no longer you will take a test that you'll guess your way through and put a Scantron in or something like that. At this point, you're probably going to do a capstone project of some kind in which you do a review of the literature that has been published on a topic. Now, they sometimes call that a research paper, and I don't really like that because you're not doing any research. You're researching what other people have researched. So basically, it is a review of the literature that has been published out on the particular topic to show that you have that general knowledge in whatever you're earning the degree in. When you step up again, you're on a master's level. Now you're in a specialty. Now you have the specialty of computer science, or rather than just a general degree of computer science, you might specialize in cybersecurity. Or if you have a specialty of nursing in your bachelor's, you might step up and have a nursing education, or as I do, a master's in nursing administration. Can you see how it's getting more specialized? And so you take courses that, yes, they're in your field, in your discipline, but they are specialized. Now, Pat Benner would say you are an expert at this point, and your competency is shown by a thesis. Now, I do teach the thesis course, full transparency, and I often have students say, I am going to do a qualitative research study. And I go, you are not in a master's degree. In a master's degree, all that is expected of anyone who does a master's degree is to create something, to have it reviewed by other stakeholders, take that criticism and revise. That's it. In the period of time that you're getting a master's degree, you don't have the time to do original research. You don't have the IRB, and you also don't really have the education to do that. It's not expected of you. You're just showing mastery on the ability, way up there in Bloom's taxonomy, to create and evaluate your work. That's it. That's all for this specialty. When you go up to the doctoral level, and I saw when y'all were coming in, some of you have doctorates. Yay, you! Because you've decided that there's some unique specialty that you want to be known for. Now, I will tell you, mine is very strange because my dissertation, yes, I have a dissertation because I have an EDD, and I'll be explaining that later, is how to motivate medical assistants to volunteer during a crisis. Now, is that specialized or what, right? First of all, it has nothing to do with nursing, but it does have to do with creation of education and mitigating in a disaster, and disaster nursing was my specialty. So I had the technical skill of AD, then bachelor's is just general. Specialty is nursing administration. I'm going to be needing to use medical assistants. There was a research gap. No one had used medical assistants, let alone in disasters. So I saw a gap, and that became my unique specialty, and that's what I'm known for. So how did I show my competency? I wrote a dissertation. So we're going to be talking in a few minutes about the differences between dissertation, DMP projects, meta-analysis, and systemic reviews. Hang on, it's coming. But first, let's talk about the return on investment. Why should I get the degree? Why should I step all the way up that staircase? And it's because you get a better job and you get a better income. Remember, I told you when I had an associate degree, I made $12.69 an hour. I don't know what starting salaries for RN are, probably a little bit more, but you can't be guaranteed those hours. An associate degree will make you maybe an RN if you pass the CMA or RMA qualifications, might get you that credential. You might be a staff member, but you're usually paid hourly. If you want better benefits, better jobs, like a shift manager, a team leader, or a teacher in K through 12, rather than just staff in a educational facility, you got to go for that bachelor's. You got to step it up a notch. Then, if you want even more pay and more benefits and more prestige, you got to go for the master's. At this point, someone with a master's degree could teach CNAs, LPNs, RNs in the associate and bachelor's level, for example. They could precept others. At this point, you have mastered what you need to be able to apprentice others. You could be a unit manager and accept that responsibility. You're valued as an expert for the skill or knowledge that you have. Or you could go on to a doctorate. I always have my MSN students go, oh, well, what will I get with a doctorate? Well, you can do research or you can do university teaching. And often I have students that say, I just want to teach online and be home with my kids. Well, you will not be able to do that without a doctorate. It is just so competitive to teach online now. You can also do contract work. You can publish, you can write textbooks, curriculum, test banks, do public speaking, provide legal testimony as a forensic nurse. It's much more competitive when you have a doctorate. So how do these doctorates differ? And this is actually what started Allie and I talking about me doing this, is that there was a discussion about how does the DMP differ from a dissertation? A lot. I teach in both of these courses. So let me help you understand. The DMP was created in response to the fact that a PhD will take you like 10 years, and even an EDD will take you 4 or 5 years usually, although people move faster at Aspen, I'll just say that. But it still was taking a long time to get research out. And by the time you did, your facility was exhausted for not having a solution to a problem. So they came up with this idea of a DNP to get innovations out quickly to all of us through conferences, through journals. But the whole idea is to get it out quickly. But the kernel that it grows from starts by immersing yourself in a clinical facility for up to 1,000 hours. So you must have a facility. You can use any post-BSN experiences, including your hours in your MSN, but you have to actually embed yourself in where the problem is. So when you figure out what the problem is, that experience drives the project. You find the problem and you create what's called a PICO, which is a problem or a population, an intervention compared to what outcome that you want over what period of time. And so the only ones that have PICO questions are DMP projects. So once you figure out what it is that you want to innovate at this facility, then you research best practices out there. You go, probably are going to be waived by IRB because you're actually changing the practice of nursing, not the care of patients. So you're not really using human subjects. So it's almost always waived. You apply that best practice or practices You record the results and you disseminate the project. They are known as quality improvement projects. Do not use the word research. It's a quality improvement project. It then drives theories. As you see more and more of these innovations, then the researchers pick up these innovations and build theories out of them. The doctor of public health also does not do a dissertation. They see a need in their communities, research solutions, and do a systematic review, which could be a meta-analysis or just a very deep analysis with suggestions of adaptation for change. Also, the doctor of computer sciences does a meta-analysis. The ones who do the dissertations are the longer programs. They do not have clinical hours. So if you're saying, should I go EDD or should I go DNP, but I don't have a facility? The answer is, if you're doing an educational activity and or you don't have a clinical facility, you're just educating, the answer is you go EDD. There are two routes to go, qualitative or quantitative. The flip side of what I just said, you don't immerse yourself and look for a problem. You begin with a theory or framework. You apply it to certain research questions that you're curious about. Then you either design a qualitative research if you're a why. I'm a why person. I don't really care about numbers. I want to know why, you know? So I had, like I said, I want to know why people would volunteer in a disaster. That's what I want to know. Why would they? Why? What kind of training would motivate them to do that? That's a why question. If human substance are involved, you're going to need IRB approval. You implement the project, write about it, disseminate the findings. Or you could have a quantitative problem. And that is where you again begin with the theory, not with immersing yourself in people. Begin with the theory, apply the research question, design a project that is measuring something. How much is this done? How much is there a change between pre and post education? How much? If it's how much, it's quantitative. You usually, in order to really have robust data, you need a larger group of participants for quantitative. Again, if human subjects are involved, there may be need for IRB approval. Implement it, write it, disseminate it, and then most students I know say, oh, but Dr. Beaman, I'd rather know how much and also why. I want to do a mixed method. And of course you do. That's a good researcher, right? Wants to do that. But let me stress this. This is a terminal degree. This is proving you can do it to earn a doctorate, okay? So you only have to do one. So only do one. Don't complicate your life. Don't spend more time. Don't spend more money. Get your doctorate one way. And then once you are Dr. such and such, do the other research. So for example, qualitatively, if you want to look at what kind of training is needed, you might do a focus group. You might do a survey. It then informs the quality of the training. If you want to do quantitative, you would say, what is the quantity of knowledge pre and post on this training? And then you flip it. You look at this is what they knew before, and this is the stuff they're missing. Why did they get these ones wrong? Why? Why is qualitative. So after you have doctor in front of your name and the diploma in your hand, you can do a mixed method that's qualitative. Likewise, if you're qualitative and you find out what kind of training is needed and you create it, after you have Dr. such and such in front of your name and your degree in your hand, then you can do that other research to find out, did this education that I created, did it actually meet the needs of my participants? And you do that through quantitative research. But you don't have to do them both to get a terminal degree. Okay, we're back on my little hill. All right, it's elevated, but it's not impossible. I also want to remind you that each course is a stepping stone. I often have students say, I'm writing just as well as I did in the last course, and I got better grades in the last course. Well, if you're writing just as well as you did in the last course, you haven't grown. You can expect each course and each course number as it goes up is going to expect more of you. Just like I said, your boss expects more of you. Everyone expects more of you as you move through. So each course, each degree will expect more of you, but it'll make you a better scholar. I often ask my students, have you learned something in this course? What have you learned? Have you changed by virtue of taking this course? They almost always say, yes, I've learned all this. I've grown so much. I'm a different person for having gotten this degree. Each degree builds on the other and opens up more opportunities for your career and thus more money. So it's worth the investment. Climb the mountain one step at a time. So if you have any questions, it's pretty easy to get in touch with me. It's Nina, my name, Nina dot. And then my last name is really easy to spell. It spells Beaman at aspen.edu. Happy to talk to any of you at any time. I'm open to any questions anybody has.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beaman. If anyone would like to ask a question, please feel free to come off mute. You're also welcome to type it in the chat and I can make sure Dr. Beaman can see it.
I'd be curious to hear if anybody feels like they have learned something along the journey and that it was worth stepping up the degree path.
Hi, Dr. Beaman. It's Tammy Fisher. I don't really have a question, but I just want to make a statement that, as always, you're awesome and you make everything just feel so simple and so understandable, and it's just so great. Uh, I agree totally that uh, taking the steps and going through those steps is well worth the time and the effort. And at the time that you're doing it, it may seem overwhelming, but in the long run, if you take the baby steps and just do the things a little bit at a time, it's good. And in the long run, you'll be well worth, and it will be well worth all of the struggles that you might think you're going to have in the long run. And I just want to thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you. And just remember, your faculty have all walked this path. I mean, I tell my students, I got some of my degrees back in the day when you typed out your paper and then you mailed it in and it came back and it was covered in red ink. Yes, it was. It was cruel. It was red ink. Yeah, even I, who, didn't know I wasn't born speaking APA style. I really wasn't. Okay. So I would get that back. And like you said, you would just, I'll never get up the mountain. But you're walking with your instructors. They've walked that path before. And they probably remember what it felt like to get red inked all over the place too. So people don't go into this line of work if they don't really care about walking with the students up the path. But they also don't want to leave you down at the bottom. They want you to stretch yourself, to move upward, to write better, to express better. Because here's the deal, you may have really good ideas and you may really be an expert in your field, but if you write sloppy, nobody's going to know that. And so, while it seems sometimes that why are they being so picky about our writing? It's because we want the best for you. We don't want you embarrassed. We want you to shine and really get that job you want, get all the accolades you deserve. And you don't if you look like you're still hanging around at the bottom of the mountain.
Well, believe me, I was one of those that had the red ink all over my papers the first few times. But that was back when I was going in the RN to BSN program. And now I'm one of those DNP persons that teach in the RN to BSN program. And I have students asking me the same thing. But, it's very worthwhile, and it's very worthwhile to learn. And thank you again for everything you do.
Thank you. Like I said, take somebody's hand help them up the hill. It's not really a mountain. It's a hill, but it's worth it. The view is great from up here.
I will say, since the topic of scholarly and academic writing has been mentioned a couple times now, we do have a ton of resources, many of them created by Dr. Beaman on the YouTube channel about scholarly writing. There's a whole webinar series specifically addressing different topics on scholarly writing that Dr. Beaman did during the first half of the year. And that can all be found on the
And we have
YouTube.
some coming up as well, by the way, on
Oh,
how
are
to
there more?
disseminate.
I'll have to get them on the events calendar.
Do that, yes, mostly about disseminating your work, but
That's
still,
right.
so we have this ongoing hand holding. You're never alone. You've got your advisors too, that I think Liz is here, but you're never alone at Aspen. There's always a group of you going up the mountain. So makes it fun.
Any further questions for Dr. Beaman while we have her?
Thank you all so much for coming. I feel honored.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.